That's bullshit.
Breakfast.
Yeah, so poor Atlas, man, he is just chewed himself raw.
Does he do his feet?
He does his feet. It's all in his gut bio.
Yeah. Jada has the same problem.
And I had an appointment for him 2 weeks ago, and I just canceled. I said, let's reschedule for 2 weeks out. He's just allergic to air, you know.
Yeah.
And, well, he's not much better, so tomorrow I'm going to take him down and get him that allergy shot. It's supposed to work for about a month, but I'm going to follow it up with Apoquel. I don't like giving him Apoquel, but
I was giving her Benadryl in the morning to kind of stave off the itching and stuff. And I don't know if it was working or not. It seemed like at first, but it's like anything.
still the tolerance.
Yeah, you get a tolerance.
Well, and that's what Karen says. She said, give him a Benadryl. I forgot.
Yeah.
Give him a Benadryl this morning.
And I've read up on all this, and it is something to do with the gut.
Yeah.
It's and I don't know about, every time you go down the rabbit hole on this stuff, oh my gosh, you have to listen to this 40-minute presentation, and then they basically tell you, oh, by the way, you got to buy this stuff.
Yeah.
And all I want to know is, tell me what it is you're selling. I might give it a try, but if you have to stand there and explain it for 30 minutes, I think I probably don't want it because it's not.
And the fact that it's, $150 for a can that big.
Yeah, I know.
Like, no. Oh, but, you can get 3 meals out of it. Now, with my dog, you can't.
Yeah.
I've been buying them down, at Walmart, they have that little refrigerator with food in there.
Yeah, you were telling me.
Yeah, I buy these loaves. And been giving them a slice of that with a cup of kibbles. It's different.
Are you giving it to all your dogs?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, heavens. I couldn't give it to just one. And the other ones would know, and then they'd teabag me while I'm asleep.
Well, I make mine, which is similar to that because of the recipes are, close. I'm sure they have something else that they put in. But the other dogs, no, I don't do that. And a matter of fact, I was giving them pedigree. Good morning.
Good morning. What we having this morning?
Well, I know what I want. I'm not sure what he wants. Saying I'm buying.
Oh, you're buying? It's my buying.
No, we're catching up on. We're moving forward with what you're going to help me with.
Oh, okay. I'm not arguing. I'm just.
Well, in that case, I'm going to have 2 eggs and toast.
Hey, what's your eggs?
Over easy.
I too want eggs and a biscuit with side of gravy and hash brown. And I know this is. Do you have leg sausage or is it patty? Let me have some leg sausage.
Hey, what's your eggs?
Over medium.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, that threw me off, so dadgummit.
Well, we were talking about dog food.
Yeah. And, I've seen recipes, it's mostly rough greens and, some red meat in there, hamburger or whatever. And that's fine. I mean, I don't have an issue with that. But it gets down to what's convenient for me.
Oh, here we go. It's all about you.
I used to make all their food.
I know, you inspired me to do it.
Yeah, and that was fine. That was fine. That's a 4-hour process because I have to make a tub of it.
Yeah. Well, I only make it up for the 2 inside dogs.
Yeah.
But like I was telling you, I used to, take the outside dogs, take their kibble and mix, you know, some pedigree with it to kind of make the, you know, the kibble go down better, you know, make them want to eat it. And pedigree's okay. I mean, I think it's a good canned dog food, but talk all about me. The problem is it's harder to stir up, so now I buy Old Roy. That's, you know, you just look at it and you're like,
which is made out of horse meat that they won't even make soap out of.
yeah. That and, you know, half of the state of Iowa's whatever corn or whatever. You know, you look at that and you're like,
well, we can't make biofuel out of that.
yeah, so we'll feed it to dogs. Yeah. And but it mixes so much better. I mean, it's softer and, you know, and I'm like,
remember the gravy train?
Yeah.
You remember gravy train?
Yeah, I
just poured water.
Oh, pour water on it. Yeah. Back in the day, that they used to put stuff in there that looked like gravy. I remember that.
Yeah.
It don't work that way anymore.
I know. Well, and there was a little. Well, it wasn't that I was intentionally doing. I'm like, oh, what can I put in here of these dog food? Oh, we have this powdered gravy. Oh, well, let me just whip some of that crap up. And then when I ran out, I'm like, oh, okay.
Well, and I won't do it until we get back from Utah. But I'll go to Walmart and pick up their day-old rotisserie chicken or the 2-day-old. I like the 2-day-old because you can pick it up for like $1.88.
Oh yeah.
And what I do is I'll bring it home, bring 2 of them home, and then I'll take off whatever meat is amenable, you know, and I'll put that in a bag and I'll eat on it, some of it, but most of it I throw it in the dog and cat food in the morning so that they have a little treat, okay? But what I also do is I take the bones and all the juices and everything else and stick it in my Instapot and cook it for 2.5 hours. I mean, I just cook the living crap out of it. And you can reach in, grab a big old chicken bone and just mash it. It's just
so it's not going to shard in their throats.
Not at all, because it's all been.
It's like a rubber chicken. Yes. Rubber chicken.
So
that's funny.
So what I do is I take that and I've got one of these masher things and I mash that all up real good with the skin and everything else from what's the tailings of what I've taken off of it. And then the juice, I make a gravy out of it. I just throw some cornstarch in there to thicken it up a little bit. I keep that in the fridge. And so what I do is in the morning, I'll put, you know, have my dog food mixed up and everything. Then I'll pour a little bit of that gravy in there. And the cats like it too, so I give them a little bit. Yeah. And the 2 girls, they like it. And so that's how I take care of the aminals.
Are you expecting me to do all that work?
No.
Because I'm going to throw them a cup of kibbles and get the hell out.
That's what
I told Karen. I said, you got to come with me to feed Joe and Liz's critters. She says, well, yeah, I could do that. I said, because there may be a day in their window that I may not be available. You need to know how to do that. So we're going to team it.
That's cool. Yeah. You know, my only worry is half of them running off. What?
Where's my gravy and chicken mush?
What? And who's that guy?
Yeah.
You know,
Daddy would have given me stuffing too.
Is that our daddy now? I don't like him.
He smells funny.
He smells like other dogs.
Yeah.
He's not taking them home and eating them, is he? So no, I'm actually worried that I could, you know, we've got that long-haired cat that just showed up, and she's kind of fun because, you know, she's a jerk, and I like a cat that's a jerk.
You know.
Yeah. I mean,
I like those attitudes.
Yeah, we've got Gus, and he's at the age like, remember Tom when we were kids?
Yeah.
That rental cat that we had, did he just disappear for a year and then show up, you know?
Yeah.
Of course, he was probably only 3 doors down.
Had a ball sack like that.
Yeah, that's why he showed up. He could have made all the other cats. Yeah, okay, I've done my job. I'm going back to where the food's better.
Tom's been around the neighborhood.
But Gus, he hangs out. He doesn't like a crowd, evidently. He hangs out down at the barn and then at the neighbor's hay barn. Right? Yeah, he's getting all he wants, you know, as far as mice and birds and whatever. But he does show up. Matter of fact, a lot of times he'll show up because we'll go down to the barn and do something down there. Next thing you know, you hear him. And he wants love, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I love him, but God, I can't stand a cat that's loving. Because you'll pet him and then he'll start slobbering. But he's a good tomcat, a good cat. And, but he doesn't, you know, if he shows up for you, I'd be surprised.
Yeah.
I mean, last time he was gone, it was almost 5 months. Liz is like, well, you think he's done? I'm like, no, he's not done.
No.
He's got it figured out, man. He just comes up when he wants to.
He's just expanded his range.
Yeah, and so
He's at the home farm.
yeah. So anyhow, he the other cats. What we're gonna do this week is we're gonna start feeding them out in the screen room. That's where I'd like you to just feed them. And that's just kibble too, you know. And they're the ones that I'm thinking, yeah, they're not gonna like that at all, especially Fluff Butt, the
I mean,
longer.
but you feed them down in the shop, right?
No, that's all done.
Oh.
The only reason I was doing that was because, you know, whoever dropped them off, they were half emaciated and dead, you know. And so what we did was we put them in a cage at the barn, and we'd feed them down there, and to get them built up and everything. And once they started acting like, okay, we're cats again, because the Siamese mix, you know, she was just like. As a matter of fact, I told Liz, let's name her Angel, because if she lives, Angel's with her. And so I told her, so anyhow, that we got them to where they were stabilized, and then I brought them to the shop, and I'd leave the door open like I did with Gandhi, or Gandalf the Grey. Ended up calling him Gandhi. Now it's Little Big Man or whatever. He's a nice tomcat, good-looking, handsome fellow. But
Didn't you give that one to Savani and Jeremy?
no. Yes, I did, and they couldn't. Shivani couldn't take it. She took. Oh, he's so cute and everything. Take him home, and he's a total terror. You know, he's a kitten, for God's sakes. She didn't understand, and that's fine. But he's turned out to be a great cat. And what I love about him is he'll come in, eat, and he's like, "He let me out. You know, I don't want to be in here." So I like that.
Yeah.
You know, I really don't like cats in the house, but like Gus, if he comes up, I'll let him stay in, because all he'll do is sleep all day, and when he's ready, he goes, you meow, and you're out. Fluff Butt's the same way, you know. But anyhow, that's what we're going to do, is we're going to start feeding them out there and get them used to going out there, and then they have a way in and out. So, and the reason I'm doing that is because you can't put any of that food down, or even on that bar. You can't put it on there, because the dogs they'll figure out a way to get it, you know.
Yeah.
And so I can't put it out. I thought, well, maybe we'll put it out in the pool area. That way the dogs can't get in. But then if it rains, you know. So we're going to do it in the screen room, and that's what. And it's just going to be kibble. All of it's going to be kibble. And like I said, I don't know. I hope my dogs don't run off. I don't think they will.
Last time I did that, you had cans of Alpo.
Yeah.
Or some kind of dog.
Yeah.
And you're not going to do that?
Well, I could probably set it up. When you come down, I need you to come down so I can show you the code for the door if you have to get in the house. And I mean, I wouldn't mind that, but like every other day.
Oh, I
just
see.
take a can and take a third and throw it in each one for the dogs. And I think that would be okay. So I can do that.
Okay.
But basically for the cats, it's just kibble, because listen, they know how to handle themselves.
Right.
Hopefully we'll start getting some rain.
Well, you're taking the two fluff butts with you, right?
Yeah, they have to go with us. So
Because they're a high value target.
yes. Anything that sleeps with you at night, you might want to take care of that.
They're going with
And I'm
you.
sure the other three would love to sleep with us, but that's not going to happen.
Okay. Well, I mean, no worries. We'll take care of them.
I know you will. I'm not worried about that. I just, I really appreciate you guys doing it. That's the whole thing. And
I know how difficult it is. I mean, to have someone come and that you can trust.
yeah,
To care for your animals while you're gone.
Right.
You can leave them in good hands. I understand that. I get it. That's why Karen and I, we don't trust them.
well, and it's hard.
It is.
Right. I mean, and it's kind of funny. You would think we're at the stage that there would be some folks that would, as a service. I mean, I would definitely hire a service to come, watch, especially for a weekend away or something.
Yeah.
Come take care of the dogs. I mean, that's how Jason and Mai do it. Wherever they go, they look for a service, and then they can go do whatever they want.
Well, see, we used to do that in
Yeah.
Salem.
Yeah.
I mean, we had a place where we could drop like this little pet groomer up here. I guess they will do that, but I've never used them.
Yeah, no, it works. You just have to make sure that you have all your information about your dogs,
Yeah.
and all this, and give them exact instructions and stuff. But they still have to have a communal situation,
So
for
you have to have social bond.
yeah. So I think that's a great thing right there. But to be able to get away for a weekend, have somebody that just all you need them to do is come down and take care of the dogs inside and out.
Yeah.
And that would be fantastic.
And that's the thing. I mean, and it's not. I'm sorry. When I feed my dogs, okay, the hyenas, they eat over here in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Atlas and Sophie eat by the water tub thing. I sit down with them while these two are eating.
To stave off the animals?
No, it's just that it's that companionship.
Oh, I see.
Sophie, she'll eat, but she's like, where's the dad?
How about that?
So that's what I do. And it's those little nuances that nobody else knows about. And you don't expect them to know about it.
That's like Jada. I'll put her out. I have to go out with her to go potty and poop and stuff like that. If I go back in, she's right at the door.
Karen, same way. Last night, Blue will wake up Karen. I want to go out. Karen will get up. She'll go out on the deck with them, her and Redbud, and they'll go piddle around and something. She'll smoke a cigarette and then she comes back in. Well, last night, she was just really tired. She just went and opened the big door and let them out and went and peed. Came back in, shut the big door. And she didn't even give them a biscuit.
Are we talking about Karen going out and peeing, or the dog?
No, she went. Yeah, they went outside. She went to the bathroom, but she let Sophie out. She didn't realize Sophie went out. Well, I couldn't sleep in the bed last night, so I went to the couch. All of a sudden, I'm hearing this. And when I went out to the couch, Sophie was with me. She'll come out to the couch with me, and then sometimes Atlas will come. Well, she was there, and then I get woken up by this dog barking. I'm going, who's barking? She let Sophie outside. She didn't realize that Sophie went out with the hyenas. And I chastised her this morning. I said, you left Sophie outside. And she's screaming to get back in. I said, you can't. She says, I didn't even go out with them. I just potted and then shut the door and came back to bed. But yeah, we have those little nuances.
Oh, everybody does.
Yeah.
And it's like those memes you see every once in a while. I have dogs, you know, I have dogs, and I accept the responsibility that I'm not going to be able to do a lot of things, but I still have dogs.
I have dogs.
Yeah.
And that's the way it is. That's, oh.
Thank you very much. Look at that.
You're welcome. You
Thank
want
you,
some
ma'am.
butter for your biscuit?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you want some more coffee?
Oh, please.
You need some jelly?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, it's you give up some things when you have critters for sure.
Well, it's worth it. Thank you very much.
You're
Appreciate
very
that.
welcome.
We did a performance yesterday at a church in Gilliam. They were having a cook-off, and
What kind?
just various dishes and stuff. And they asked us to be the judges.
Uh-oh.
And I'm like, I'm gonna go all Gordon Ramsay on you. So we go in there, and there were 7 tables set up with various dishes, and we were to sit down and rate each table, and we had to come up with a winner. There was a guy and his family, I guess, that made jambalaya. I mean, it was the 7th table, which, by the way, they won. He made a jambalaya that was just, I've never had such a tasteful, balanced, flavored dish in such a long time. You know, this table over here, they did a Mexican dish. This one did briskets, and this one did barbecue, and that kind of variety, which is fine. And then one of the tables, bless their heart, I bit into their brisket, and it was like chewing on this.
No.
It was just dry as a bone. And but I said, I'd sure love to have a takeout, if you will, a to-go box of that dish for Karen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I said open.
I was going to say, man, you should have brought me some.
Man, last night I reheated that, and reheating's not as good as,
Oh, I know.
fresh cooked. It was just awesome. God, that was the best Louisiana dish. And he got the recipe. He lived in Louisiana. He got it, learned it from some folks down there. Yeah. Anyway, so we judged their tables, and I mean, all the food was amazing. Don't get me wrong, it was amazing. I mean, because we had 3 criteria: presentation, taste, and how each item complemented each other. Good criteria. Yeah, but the jambalaya, he did white beans, like a northern pinto bean, northern bean. White bean.
A Great Northern?
Great
Are they
Northern.
bigger or the smaller?
Yeah, the bigger one.
Yeah.
The bigger one. Yeah, Great Northern. And oh my God. And he had a sausage in there that was handmade. They made this mixture of the sausage, and cut it up.
So that must have been an andouille.
I don't know.
Yeah, probably was.
But oh my God. I'm like, oh yeah, this is the one.
Well, speaking of jambalaya, you notice our Louisiana restaurant is for sale.
Oh, this little
Yep.
shack?
Yeah.
Well, that's 6 months. People fail to understand when you go into business, you better have a year's salary saved, because you're going to operate in law.
Well, do you think it was that, or was it just
I don't think it took off.
poor execution? I mean, if I had a place like that, I would have a constant giant pot of gumbo going at all times because people like gumbo. Every time they put a sign up saying we have gumbo, by the time I got there, it was gone. Now that should tell you something, you know?
That's what it means.
And their menu was like a food truck menu for Cajun.
I never went there.
Well, I stopped there and I'd read their menu and I'm like, okay, I want some jambalaya, I want some, I want the soups, I want the, give me the stuff. And
So you're
it
saying,
wasn't even on their menu, it was just a specialty. And when they'd put a sign out and say that, and I'm like, and like I said, it was 2 or 3 times I'm like, oh, right, it got gumbo. That's how I'm going to judge you, is by your gumbo, okay? And by the time I'd get there, if I see it and then I'd go do whatever, by the time I get back, well, we're out. Well, what'd you do? Make a pot about that big and didn't think it was going to sell? Everybody likes gumbo.
get one of those big bats.
I'm telling you, when we lived in Minot, there was one of our favorite restaurants was called Jake's Spice and Spirit. Okay, it was kind of like a supper club kind of thing, but it was just a restaurant. But this guy used to make the very best beer cheese soup you have ever put in your mouth, and he would make a giant cauldron of this stuff.
Yeah.
And what he did, every time he sat down, they had these small loaves of bread that they made for, you to eat butter and whatever. So it was little sliced, small loaves of bread. Well, what you didn't eat, they would take it and toast it, and then they would serve, then they'd reserve that with this soup. And it was perfect. It was absolutely perfect. I mean, I'd go in there and that's all I'd do is have their beer cheese soup. Well, okay, he had a hit on his hands, and it was, understood. This was a fever dream in my book. You let your romance about being, Cajun food and all this, which is great food, absolute great food. Don't have a problem with it.
Right.
But the thing is it's what their menu was. Like I said, it was more like a food truck menu. Sausage this and sausage that. Well, that's okay, but you can't just rely on that. I was not. It didn't strike me well. And and again, like I said, if I go to an Italian restaurant that I've never been to, I'm just going to order spaghetti and marinara. No meatball. I don't want any of that. I just want straight up marinara and your spaghetti. If you mess that up, first, I'm never coming back.
Right.
And second, I am definitely not going to order your higher end stuff because that's a basic Italian meal. And, it's simple to get it right. It's stupid if you get it wrong, So that's how I do it. And I do the same thing. I got to tell you my gumbo story though. When I was in the Air Force in Minot, I worked with this guy named Kevin Monette. He was from New Orleans, okay? And found out that his dad was a chef at one of the restaurants down there in New Orleans, okay? And so he was making a trip back home to see folks and everything, and I said, hey, Kevin. And he let me talk to his dad one time. We were at the shop, and he did that thing where you call down there and you get to call on the government phone and kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, I got to talk to George. That was his dad's name. And I said, first thing I like, Kevin's doing good up here. I'll tell you anything for some of your gumbo. And he started laughing. And he said, well, next time he comes down, I'll send some back with him.
Nice.
Yeah, and I'm like, sir, I love you already. But anyhow, so Kevin made a trip down there, and he comes back, and he had some of George's seafood gumbo. It was in a large Folgers can, okay, frozen. Okay, And I thought, oh, right, you know. So I'm thinking, well, none of my kids are going to want any of this, and nobody's going to like this stuff. And so I warmed it up real slowly and started tasting on. Oh, I'm like, oh my god, this is amazing. I mean, it had blue crab in it, and it had shrimp and fish and
You
everything.
tell the kids, oh, this is just lard. You don't want any of this.
Let me tell you, I let the kids taste it, and they basically ate all of it except for just a little bit for me. They just loved it.
What did we learn?
But that was cool. Kevin went on he got stationed at Vandenberg after I got out, which is in California.
Right.
And the last time I talked to him, he was actually working for NASA as a safety guy.
Oh, okay.
Because a lot of folks don't know this, but at Vandenberg, they have a launch facility for the shuttle. That's what he was working with, the shuttle.
Okay.
And a lot of folks don't realize that was the alternate launch pad. You know, they called it Slick 6 or something like that. I remember seeing it when I went down there for combat competition, and but that's what he was doing. He was in the safety business, just like I was. I'm like, how about that? So.
And he has a jumbo shrimp chef dad.
I asked him, I says, are you going back to New Orleans? No, I'm staying in Cali. Love it here. I'm like, all right.
Yeah, there's a weather never changes. Rain once in a while.
I remember when we went down there for the competition. It was in the summer, and down there, to make the grass look nice, they actually painted it. They'd spray some kind of green thing on it.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
We gotta purdy up this dirt. Yeah.
Vandenberg Air Force Base.
I was supposed to tell you something. Must have been a lie.
Well, those sound good too, you know.
Yeah, Kelly, Fred's daughter, Nova's daughter, had a baby recently, a few weeks old. Started throwing up everything. Couldn't keep anything down, even Pedialyte, nothing. Couldn't keep it down. And she was telling us this last Bible study we have on Tuesdays at the house. And they had to cancel that last Tuesday because, she had to cancel that because Kelly had a doctor appointment at Texarkana, so she had to get. Anyway, she was telling us on Thursday, we rescheduled Thursday, that the little one, the little baby, his name is Dallas, can't keep anything down. And pees about an eye dropper full, so it's not expunging anything either. Well, they went to their physician, Brian, and he just said, well, baby hadn't dehydrated or anything, so just give us some Pedialyte and see how that goes. Maybe it was go, but well, 5-6 days went by and the kid still isn't keeping anything down. So they went back. Well, they life flighted that baby to the Children's Hospital up there in Little Rock. And Nova had researched, and she says what it was, the symptoms is a syndrome or an issue where the small intestine connected to the stomach kind of closes off. And it doesn't allow anything to process on through. And that was exactly what was diagnosed up there. So they had to do a surgery on the baby. And that was successful, but then the baby started chucking food again. So they had to go back and do some more examinations and stuff like that and fixes. Well, now the baby's home. Now, I guess doing better, but yeah, couldn't keep anything down. And that was what it was. That whatever that issue was that she had researched, they had to do surgery on the little fella.
Yeah, that's terrible.
But he's back home now, so. And that's tough, you know. I mean, the kid's only 2 weeks old.
Yeah, I get it.
Something like that. I mean, you guys went through the same thing with Clint.
Yeah.
No.
But we had the backing of the United States Air Force on that one.
Yeah.
I mean, I was talking about that yesterday to some folks, telling them that, you know, he was born in an Air Force hospital. They had to take him across town to a ICU, where back in those days, they bagged him for 8 hours.
Oh, yeah.
Until they could, you know, the Air Force could get a Nightingale up, which was a DC-9, a little hospital. I mean, you go onto it and there's seating here, and then in the back there's like 4 beds or 3 beds, and that's where patients, you know, in critical, and they were going to take him to Fitzsimmons. I kept having a hard time remembering. It was Fitzsimmons Army Hospital in Denver. I forgot the base, but anyhow, they were going to send him there, but they had an outbreak of meningitis in their ICU, so they flew him to San Antonio instead, to Wilford Hall, and that was a stroke of luck, to be honest with you, because I was telling these folks, I says, Wilford Hall, the ICU unit, was rated number 2 in the world at that time.
Wow.
And I says, it was only 2 to a French hospital. And the French hospital dealt basically with local babies. Wilford Hall dealt with babies all over the world, because that, you know, all the bases in the world,
Right.
you know, that's where they send the babies. And
that's a military hospital, right?
yeah. But the cool thing is what they didn't have in Minot at the hospital was an infant respirator, because they hadn't been expanded out. They were there, but they didn't have it. Wilford Hall had them because the 2 doctors, these 2 colonels, one was named Colonel DeLemus and the other one was Colonel Knowles. They developed the infant respirator that they use today. And Knowles was Clint's doctor.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it really, he was extremely fortunate to have, you know, that for him.
Right.
And, you know, I don't know how, in today's world, I don't know how many millions of dollars it would have cost to keep that kid alive. But when they got him back to us, he wasn't on any drugs, didn't have to take. He no breathing apparatus. You know, and I tell people, I'm like, yeah.
Well, what exactly happened to Clint?
He was born foot breech.
Foot breech.
Yeah. When a baby's being delivered, the head comes out first. Okay? The cervix opens up to 10 centimeters. The head pushes through, and then it immediately starts collapsing. Okay? Well, if you come through the other way, once the body starts coming through, it starts collapsing, and it collapses at the neck.
Oh, okay.
And, you know, they have to get the baby through that, okay?
Right.
And what happens is, you got to think about it, if you've ever worked around cattle, and you have to deliver a calf that's breech, you'll find out that, as a matter of fact, if a calf dies in the body, in the cow's body, they literally just pull a foot out, cut the skin, and you can just literally jerk that leg out. And that's what they do, is they'll take 1 or 2 of those and then pull the whole calf out.
Right.
And, you know, same thing if it was alive, they're going to, you know, they have to work on it to get it out. Well, with Clint, it collapsed on his neck. When he's so tender, you know, the body is so tender, it's not used to being handled,
Right, sure.
that he ended up, the nerves in his neck on the left-hand side, that's what affected his arm usage. Even though if he was in here, nobody would know because he's compensated so well.
Right.
But it also affected his diaphragm for, you know, breathing.
For breathing.
Yeah, as they explained it to me, they said diaphragm works this way.
Yeah.
His is working this way. So it's not drawing, it's just, so it's not, he's not getting enough air. And so that's what they worked on with him as far as, you know, therapy and things of that nature. I mean, they built, occupation guys built stuff for him, and again, he was on a respirator for 3 months.
Yeah.
So, but he came through all right.
Well, I tell you, those were, I mean, I remember you telling us, you and Liz telling us about at that time. It was just harrowing. That whole story about Clint.
Yeah, well, we didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And I have to thank Frank because they put me on permissive TDY,
Right.
which means they'll let you go. It's an administrative action, but we're not going to pay for per diem or anything like that. Well, that got to be pretty expensive because I was staying in their facility. Frank shows up. He says, "Look, you can stay with me. I'll give you, you know," he had this little Fiat 850 Spider. He says, "I'll give you a car to run around." And after that, he let me have that truck, use his truck, the one that, if it rains, you might as well put it away because you're not going to be able to even get started with it unless you're going downhill because it was so powerful. And then he got me a job at Gibson Plumbing.
Gibson, that's where he worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And man, did I learn a lot from, you know, about plumbing from that. So it, you know, really helped us out big time.
Absolutely.
I have to say I owe the guy big time.
Now, was Carol and Frank still married at that time? They weren't. They were divorced, right?
Yeah.
Carol was back up in Oregon.
But that didn't matter.
No.
I mean, he's like your family, man.
Yeah. And then Jeremy, now his gift.
Yeah. Well, that was when he was 19 or 20, 19. He was still on our insurance until 22 is how it worked. But yeah, he contracted transverse myelitis. And the way to explain that, the best way, is if you've ever had Bell's palsy, you know what happens. The nerve starts swelling inside the bone, you know, where it passes through, and then it cuts off, you know, the information to the three main muscles. Well, in this case, it's your spinal cord that's swelling. And I mean, he had gotten to the point where he tells his mom, we were talking about this yesterday. He tells his mom that I can't feel my legs. Well, that freaked her out. And guess where I was when this happened? I'm out in the middle of nowhere in Wisconsin on an off-site strategic planning get together, and which meant, I mean, cell phones weren't big then,
Right.
which meant we didn't even have phones in our room, and we weren't allowed to get phone calls or anything like that, you know, except extreme emergency. And I didn't have a number to give Liz, so she didn't know how to get a hold of me.
Right.
So her and Tia went up and picked him up and brought him down to, we were still living in, I don't think we had bought our house in St. Paul yet. Yeah, we did. No, this was yeah, we did. Anyhow, long story short, Liz and Tia went up and got him and brought him down. And basically that's
Now, you all were living in Minneapolis and he was in
He was
Dakota?
he was still in Grand Forks, North Dakota.
Grand Forks, okay.
He had just finished high school and was determining what he was going to do and everything. But he was living with Jason, who was finishing college. Well, Clint was too. No, Clint hadn't started college yet. But they were all three living in Grand Forks together. And so, long story short, Liz and Tia went, I don't think it got him that time. They basically went up, it was our old family doctor that was, they went up to talk to him. He explained, this is what I think this is. Don't see much of it. And then they started on a regime of, big time steroids, because that's exactly what they do for Bell's palsy. Once they diagnose it, they're going to give you steroids. It doesn't mean it's going to fix it. It just means it's going to stop it from swelling.
Right.
And then it's heal thyself. That's basically it. Well, in this case, they give you a ton. They gave him a ton of. We were living when it was first diagnosed. We were living in Cottage Grove. We hadn't bought our house yet, and so I remember coming back, and I remember Jeremy. I'd go to work and I'd come back, and the refrigerator's completely cleaned out because he's eating everything.
Well, the boys have been here.
No, it was him because of the steroid. We started calling him Little Buddha because his face started getting. That's when you see somebody that's got a rounded face, most likely they're having to take steroids for something.
Right.
And so we had a good time with that. Well, it wasn't until after that was settled down, he went back to Grand Forks. We bought the house, all this stuff, and then we get a call that hey, he's having a hard time getting around, and so we went up. That's when we went up to get him. We had just bought this used Jetta. TDI, that great car.
Yeah, sky blue, if I recall.
No, it was navy.
Navy blue?
Yeah.
Okay, that was a different one then. You had two of them.
No, we only had one.
Was it this?
Yeah, and but anyhow, we went up to pick him up, and coming back, I'm like, the car is acting bad. I'm like, what in the world? Well, that's when I found out that we took it to the Volkswagen place, and the guy says, he says, what the problem is your intake manifold is gummed up. I'm like, well, how'd that happen?
McDonald's French fry grease.
He said, he showed me on the car. He says, you see these two lines right there? Those are coming up from your oil pan and the inside of the engine. And what it is it's being sent to the intake to run it through the through the pistons, and then run it through the exhaust manifold. And it was a measure for clean air or whatever. Okay. And but the problem is you're running it through the intake, and it's oil and esters of whatever coming off of it, and all this stuff. Well, long story short, they had to take the intake manifold off and boil it to get this gunk out of there. And it did well, it did real well. And then the second time it happened to me, the guy said, no, you don't have to do that. And he had to process it. I think what he did, he's just run it, got somebody in there to rev it, and he ran some kind of carburetor cleaner through it to clean it up and shoot
starter
it through,
fluid.
Yeah, shoot it through the intake and exhaust manifold. But I'm like, well, I told the guy, says, anyway, you just cut those lines? Sure, and go to prison? I'm like, okay, I don't guess you can.
Just, I'm just spitballing here.
But he did say, but that doesn't mean you can't do it. I never did it.
All right.
God, I love that car. I used to fill it up because I'd have to do work at Fort Sheridan outside of Chicago. I would fill that car up, go do stay the night all the time. I'd stay the night, I'd do my thing, get my stuff done, and then I'd drive it back on one tank of fuel. I was getting 45 miles to a gallon with that. It was,
That is almost as good as that stupid Honda hybrid we bought.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
And one night I was doing a fatality accident in Dubuque, Iowa, and so I just drove down there, and just outside of La Crosse, Wisconsin. It's dark. I'm driving home. I'm not going to stay anywhere. It's dark, and I come around this corner, and there's this big chunk of metal, and I was going too fast to avert it, and that thing rolled up underneath the car, and the car is only this much off the ground.
There's a meat grinder going on at the undercarriage.
And so after I got past it, I pull over, and I thought, oh my! I get my flashlight out, and I'm looking underneath and everything, and I look, and there's diesel dripping out. It had punctured my fuel tank. And so that's when I really fell in love with my friend up there. I called him Wacko Bitch, Paul Nowacki. I drove it to this bar restaurant and went in and called. And I'm talking to him. I said, I just need your advice. What do you think I should do? And he says, I'll be down there. I'm like, what are you talking about? He said, I'm going to get the neighbor's trailer. The neighbor raced cars. He had a race car trailer.
Oh.
And the neighbors, when he went over to tell him what was going on, he said, yeah, Joe's car's, screwed up in Wisconsin. Can I use your trailer? And he said, just take the truck and trailer and just go get him.
Go get him.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So I went and got it. He came and got me, and that's when I really fell in love with him. I always loved the guy. But picked me up. We got back to the house at 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
And we took it over to my mechanic and everything and had it all replaced. The mechanic said, you realize you could have probably, just the fuel that was inside the injectors, you could have probably drove it home. I'm like, yeah, maybe.
There's probably about a half thimble in there.
Well, not injectors, that'd have been full. That'd have
200
been
to 300 miles out of that.
So he says, yeah, you realize you probably could have drove that home with just what was in the injectors. And I'm like, yeah, probably.
Well, I thought you guys had a sky blue, gay looking Jetta.
Nope, I only had one Jetta.
Okay.
I was talking to Andy Pope the other day. We were talking about cars. He has a Passat with a TDI.
Oh, okay.
I'm like, well, as a cowboy, you sure surprised me. You own airplanes and you fly around and do air shows for me, and you also have a Passat. He says, yeah, one of the best cars I've ever had.
Yeah.
And he says, yeah, I just keep it. If we're gonna, make a day trip or something like that, we jump in. Which Passat's a great car,
Yeah.
But that TDI is like, yeah.
That's the older Passats.
Yeah. That's because the Germans were lying to us. You remember that big scandal that they found out about the Germans were lying about the stats?
No, I don't recall that.
And I think everybody that owned a TDI went, I don't care.
I'm still getting 70 miles to the gallon.
I know.
On this thing.
So, but anyhow, yeah, they've changed all that. I'm sure it's not as good, but great car. Gosh, it was so nice and tight. That's what I like about that Escape. It's a tight car. It drives real well, But yeah, that was.
There she is. Are you having a good morning?
Oh, I'm having a fabulous morning.
Look at you. You just owning the day.
Sounded like looked like she kind of gritted her teeth when she said that. Fabulous.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
And stop talking to me.
Leave me alone.
You want to talk to me?
No, he told me, he says, got a friend in Tulsa, and he says, I'll drive up there and back, one fuel, one tank.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, sure.
Remember David talking about that Fiat he had? He had a Fiat, and that's where I learned the first term of that acronym. Fiat, fix it all the time. He used to complain about that dang car. Oh, stupid Fiat. Like, yeah, but it's a Fiat, right? I mean, isn't that? have at least a 7 cool factor to it, piece of crap.
Well, I'll tell you, if you're going to own a car like that, you better not live here. You need to live a place like San Antonio or Dallas where they've got junkyards full of stuff. As a matter of fact, while I was using that 850 Spider of Frank's, one of the axles went out. Okay, so I told Frank, I says, I think there's a bad axle on it, and these were all rear wheel, not front wheel. And we get to look, and he says, yeah, it looks like it's bad. He says, come on. So we head off to this first time I'd ever seen a salvage yard. Yeah. A salvage yard that was the first one I ever saw that was all organized, and the cars are on racks. They just bring a forklift out, pick it up, and pick what you want, and then they put it back. Like a library.
That's something.
I'm like this. I'm impressed.
I've never seen a pick apart like that. It's a treasure hunt. Where's Waldo?
Yeah, I know. It's miles and miles of greasy, grimy gopher guts, that's what I was used to. But this was a class act. A matter of fact, while we were there, we pulled off an axle, and also he owned a TR3, a Triumph TR3, the wedge. Remember those?
Oh yeah.
And we were going down Bandera in it one day, and I asked him. I said, So, what's so bad about this car? And he says, well, I've raced, muscle cars with it. I'm like, come on. He goes, no, let me show you. So he literally stops in the middle of Bandera Avenue, and he puts it in first gear, and he goes, and he redlined that thing, okay? And it's like, and I'm waiting for it to blow up, right? And he goes, watch this. Bam! Puts it in second gear, redlines it again. And I'm like, wow. He says, by the third gear, I'm so far ahead of them because they're still having to shift.
Oh, yeah.
And he says, and I'm already redlining, and I'm my speed, the transfer speed is like right now. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. He says, yeah. He says, this is a hot little baby. But while we were there picking that part, there was a TR3 at the bottom of the rack, and he goes in there, and he's looking around, he says, oh, yeah. He reaches in and grabs this electronic part that was on, that had, the steering column had been opened up. He says, give me those clippers. Cuts this thing, shoves it in his pocket, and we walk in and pay for the axle and stuff. I said, so what's that about? He says, that's about a $750 piece, and I need one for my TR3.
And I ain't paying for it.
I said TR3, it's a TR7. David had a TR3. Not a TR3, his was the wedge, TR6 or 7, one of the two. It's been a long time. But yeah, he goes, that's a $700 part. I'm like, all right, I don't care.
Your stuff, man.
So,
I'm just here for the axle.
Yeah. So I put the axle in, and we're good. But like I said, you can own cars like that. You're really going to want to be around a place like that.
Well, Fred, when he was down here, he has an all-wheel drive. I don't know what kind of car it is.
It's my plan never to own one of those. And I said never.
He had the rears done. He bought parts and took it down here to the Perez boys, and they put it in and everything. But we did the front. Well, let me clarify that. He did the front. I just stood there and looked pretty.
Yeah. Well, I know. Somebody's got to do it.
Bring it into this air-conditioned shop, and I'll hold the light and sit in chairs. And you can crawl under there. Well, he replaced the front of his car. So yeah, it's like, okay, yeah, bring it all in, man. Bring it in here. And you do all the work. Everything. But yeah.
Boy, he's like his papa. Frank would dig into anything.
Yeah. He had bought solar panel system for his house. He had it re-roofed. He's still working on the inside of his house because it was flooded.
Yeah, I remember him telling me.
Yeah, it was all flooded. He's still working on that, and yeah, he's sinking some serious cash into his. He's looking now at a battery bank for his solar panels. And I'm like, geez, you're dumping some serious cash into this wood.
Speaking of solar panels, I get a call the other day. Well, I got a call and I missed it. And then I called back because it was a Nashville number, and I'm like, okay. So I called, and this guy says, oh yeah, Mr. Green. He says, he starts out, he says, because you have a digital electric electric meter, he says, we can offer you these solar panels, and he's making it, he didn't say it outright, but he made the roundabout thing about, this is in cahoots with your electric company. I said, and I didn't ask directly, I just asked, so my electric company is involved with this, right? He goes, yeah, and he's talking about how, we could save so much money and all this stuff, and he's just, rattling off the spiel, and I'm thinking, well, who are you? And he gives me his name, and I'm like, okay, so you're in Nashville here? Yeah. And I said, okay. And I said, so he gives me the whole spiel and everything, and I'm like, well, let me, I says, I've got your number. I says, let me do some thought on this and, get back with you. I says, because I love having solar panels. I've got a perfect spot for solar panels on the house. But I also don't believe in a free breakfast, And so I thought, okay, well, let me just do some calling. And I called REC in Texarkana, and I said, look, I got this call, and I just wanted to know if you guys are offering this, because the person that talked to me about this inferred you are. And the lady, and I says, no, I'm into saving money, and and I like the thought of panels and stuff like that. And but I says, I just want to know if it's legit with you guys. The lady goes, not in any way. And she says, can I get that number and the name? I'm like, sure can. It says, it's all in your court. See you later. So anyhow, so I don't know what happened. I'm sure she called him and like, we're coming for you.
Well,
and I'm sure the guy's not from Nashville. He just got a Nashville number.
right. And the thing is that, there's this little ad on Facebook, a guy that's a solar panel seller and installer, and he says, look, you'll get calls about free solar panels and stuff. They're not.
Yeah, there's no such thing.
There's no such thing. He says, I've been doing this in Arkansas for 30 years or whatever. And he says, no, that's not free. There's nothing for free.
Yeah, I've seen a few of those commercials. Did you know in Arkansas you can blah, blah, blah. I'm like, not buying that, I'm not old enough to fall for your scam.
Well, and then there's a couple other ones too. There's we're looking for houses that need gutters. We're looking for houses that need new roofs. Well, you got some new type of prototype you want to test? Yeah, come put them on. Don't expect me to pay you a nickel.
Yeah, so, but anyhow, that was kind of interesting. I mean, yes, had a guy, when I was working, he was one of the project managers, and he lived in Maryland, and he had installed these. And I mean, he was crazy about them.
Yeah.
I mean, he loved coming out. Man, I made $35 today, selling his electricity back.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man.
Well, I think they've changed that now. I don't think they actually pay you a dividend. I think they give you in the form of a credit or something now.
They might, but they have to take it.
Yeah.
So I mean, and of course they're trying to change that because the utility companies don't like having to buy electricity from their customers.
Well, Fred was saying the same thing. He says you have to enter into these covenants with these companies, contractual thing about what we'll buy back or what we'll allow on the grid. And he says, we got 25 different electric companies in the Houston area.
Yeah.
He says, you got to go around and negotiate with these guys. He says he burns maybe 4 kilowatt hours in one billing cycle, when he's up here. He says, I got 2 refrigerators, network. He runs nothing. He can run it on a 9-volt battery.
Yeah.
But he was telling me. He said, "Yeah, you got to enter into these agreements with these guys about how that exchange is going to happen." I thought it was simpler than that. I thought it was.
I did too.
You generated this much energy. Whatever you're not using goes back into the grid. I don't know. It's too complicated for me. I wanted to cut all those trees down in my lower parcel.
Yeah.
Just put a solar array in there.
Yeah. It's funny. That same trip that my car got damaged, I stopped at this restaurant bar kind of thing and ended up, having a beer and stuff, talking to this guy. He had, and I'm in the middle of nowhere. I don't even know where that little hole in the wall was at. And I just know it was outside of La Crosse, about 30 minutes. But I'm talking to this guy, and he says, I just bought a house from some Amish. And I'm like, really? He says, well-built, great house.
Yeah.
Not a single bit of plumbing or electricity in it. And he said, so what I've done is...
And not built for that kind of upgrade either.
Yeah. It wasn't like they made room for it.
Yeah.
But he was telling me how he was converting the house and everything, and his whole goal was to live completely off the grid.
Oh.
And he said, I have a windmill generating electricity up on this hill behind me, and he said, I'm going to get solar panels, and of course I'll have generator backup and everything like that. And then there's a well, so he's got water there. He said, that's my intention, is to literally live off the grid. And I'm thinking, well, if anybody can do it, that guy probably could.
You got an outhouse too.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting.
I mean, the outhouse gets full. All you do is just pick up the roof or building, move it over here, dig a new hole.
I remember the first time I ever heard the term latrine. It was my first Boy Scout outing. Okay. And so when you first get to wherever you're going to be, they're going to assign different duties to everybody. And mine with this other guy was the duty. We had to go dig a latrine. And I'm like, so I'm acting like, sure, of course. So we get a little ways from him, like, what the hell is a latrine? He goes, the bathroom. I'm like, oh, never heard that term before. And we went, found our spot, dug our hole, and then we had to make a rickety place where you could sit and poop.
Yeah.
That weekend, I don't think I pooped once.
I'm going to hold it. I'm good. My eyes are turning brown.
There's 3 things I learned on, that was a camporee. Okay.
Camporee?
Yeah, that's a Boy Scout term for little jamboree, But what it is it's a competition. You've got different posts or whatever they call them, and you compete against the other ones, and they've got criteria like one is how did you leave your area? Did you leave it better than you found it? Stuff like that.
Right.
Us being the smallest, oh yeah, we won that one. But I learned I learned about the latrine. I learned about pack rats. Okay, a bunch of shiny things started going missing from tents and stuff like this, and so the guy just said it's got to be a pack rat. And we got to looking. We found this burrow with all kinds of twigs and stuff on it. We started digging through that thing. Sure enough, there's all our stuff. I'm like, what the heck? And he goes,
watch.
yeah, my Omega. But I'm like, what the heck? I didn't know anything about these things. And yeah, it's their thing. If you look hard, or if you look closely, where your item was at, you'll find like an acorn or something, because they never take it for free. They give you something.
They'll give you something for it. Yeah.
I'm like, really? This actually exists? Yeah, we found. I don't know if we found everything. I didn't have anything missing. I didn't have anything shiny, and but that was something else I learned. Pack rats, and then I learned. And if I would have been reading my Boy Scout manual, I would have known this.
Oh, yeah.
So right outside of my tent,
Pesky little detail.
right outside my tent is this fir sapling, right? So they don't have scraggly, bark. They've just got those just that thin bark cover with the little popping little things, bumps sticking up. And I'm standing there at eye level. I push on one. I squirt this pitch right into my eye. I'm like, oh my God.
It burns.
Oh, it burns. And I'm like, So after I got past that, later I'm not there, but at home I'm kind of going through it, and I'm like, there's an illustration and everything. Don't do this, stupid. So I didn't do it anymore, that's for sure.
What did we learn? And you always build your tent, pitch your tent door downwind or downslope. Yeah, that's an important thing.
We were on level ground in the trees, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, that comes in handy on the hillside.
Yeah, especially during the winter, Yeah, I never got to do any of that stuff. I never got to do the Cub Scout. Well, I take that back. Was it Mike Smith and I? And it may have been one of your Cub Scout outfits or something. We put on a hat, put on a little necklace or neckerchief, and went to a Cub Scout thing, and they threw us out, because we weren't officially hazed into the club. So.
You were not incepted.
Yeah.
I remember my inception.
Yeah.
When I got my Bobcat, they'd give you a Bobcat trade. Dad was there. Well, he had to take me because it's at Dillard Elementary auditorium. That place was full. All kinds of people in there. And I don't know. I forgot how many of us
Mom
were.
and Dad, by the time it got to me, Mom and Dad didn't care about any of that structured learning, development stuff and socialization.
Maybe you didn't need it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. I mean, he's, all the kids taught him, right?
Yeah. Well, see, when you were a kid, Dad was in his, 40s? 30s?
40s.
40s?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, when I was a kid, Dad was in his 60s.
Yeah.
He's like, whatever.
Hope you make it, kid. Don't bother me.
Good luck. Good luck.
Yeah. Oh, gotta tell you my latest thing. So, during the fair, I don't know if I told you, but I took the first shift at the Democrat booth. Did I tell you about that?
Yeah, you told me.
I had had the great debate with that lady and the two folks from the Gideons, tag teaming me and stuff. So as we were setting it up and everything, getting everything ready for the day, a couple came by and I recognized the one guy. His name's Jerry. He's a master gardener. He's one of the master gardeners. Great guy, nice guy and everything.
Yeah.
So, I didn't know his politics, but come to find out, they're Democrats, he and his wife. So he and I are talking and everything. He said, hey, do you like to play poker? And I'm like, well, yeah, I've played it before. I kind of like it. He says, man, you got to come to our poker game. I'm like, really? He says, yeah, I'm the only Democrat there. The rest of them are, MAGA hats. And I'm like, he says, I need some backup. And I'm like, I said, okay, I'll help you out. Just call me. So he called me, or he texted me, and he says, you still on? I'm like, sure, I'll give it a try. I'll be your wingman and everything. So we went to this guy's house, older gentleman. And don't get me wrong, these are great guys. They're all great guys. I don't have a problem with them.
Right.
I disagree in their ideology, but that's all it is.
You're there to play poker.
Yeah, and so I go there, and I'm the way he explains this. Yeah, he says we don't use chips. We just use coinage, and he says it's we'll do an ante, and he says the bets are normally just about 5 cents, maybe a little more. Sometimes it can be a little more and stuff like that. So I'm like, okay, well I can handle that. So I get $10 worth of change, and I go there. Yeah, it's not like that exactly. First, the ante is 50 cents. Okay, and I'm like, well, okay, I can probably get through that if I can win, And I'm used to Texas Hold'em and draw and 7 and 5 card draw and some other, deuces or wild kind of crap, and stuff like that. These guys, they're way beyond that. Their games are set up to build the pot, which is fine.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, the game they taught me is called 13 or 33. Excellent game. I loved it, But there's a lot to know. You can't just. The idea is you either go high or low, and what you're trying to do is make the low, which is 13. If you bust 13, then you got to go up. Well, there's all kinds of bluffing and playing with that, and that's great. And you got ins and outs on how you can bet and things like that. I mean, every bet was a quarter.
You went through that 10 bucks pretty quick.
Yeah, because
30 minutes.
I'm used to, I bet 5 cents, okay, you bet 5 cents onto my 5 cents, and then you go around, and if you want to raise it, okay, that's fine, another 5 or whatever. That's not the way it works here. It's basically, this is 5, now it's 10 cents, it's 15. By the time it gets to the standard is 25 cents each bet. So that's okay. That's how they play. I'm there as a guest, and I ran through $10 as fast as you can imagine, and I did win a little bit, but there's too many. I saw all my mistakes, and when I left, which I got a meal out of it, but that was a very expensive meal. Because I paid I lost $30. And so I'm like, okay guys, I'm out, I'll go. And I get a message from him the next day, hope you had a good time and everything. I know you lost, but winning is like 1 out of 4 times. He says, I've lost the last 2 and I won last night. And I'm thinking, yeah, you
But
sure.
I won last night.
Sure
I
did.
needed a pigeon.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong.
You look like the sucker I needed.
That is exactly what's ringing in my head. And I'm thinking, for me to get on the par would probably take me another 3 games.
Yeah.
3 settings.
$200 later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, $150 in, I might be able to compete because I wasn't competing. I mean, like I said, I made mistakes that I even recognized.
So it wasn't going through a meat grinder because of political ideology. It was going through a meat grinder because this guy who invited you needed a win.
Yeah, well, no, not just that. I think it was just fresh meat, new money.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I come in with a baggie with $10 worth of coins, right? They come in with like Royal Crown bags full of coinage and money. I'm like, and I knew right then, when they all sat down with all their money, I'm like, yeah, this is not...
Okay, Royal Crown bags, and you got a little sandwich bag.
Yeah, I got a little sandwich bag, and I'm like, yeah. So I wrote him back, and I told him, I said, look, I really enjoyed it. You guys definitely are a great group. I says, you've obviously been doing this for a long time, kind of a hint.
Yeah.
I get it. And I says, but you know, I'm just not cut out for boys' night because they play every Tuesday,
Oh yeah.
and I'm like, yeah. So he comes back and he goes, oh man, sorry to hear that. You know, guys thought you were a real good fit. I'm thinking, sure they did.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm not trying to be a conspiracy
They have to
theorist.
get another Crown Royal bag.
Yeah.
Keep bringing him back.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not that I couldn't afford it,
Right.
but it's do I want to? And that's one of my problems. I told Liz, I said, what's wrong with me? I really don't like hanging out. You know, I mean, these are good guys. There's nothing wrong with what they're doing. It's just I'm not into that.
Right.
And to be honest with you,
And we used to.
oh yeah,
We used to. Man, let's do this, do that.
But I told him, I says, I don't think I'm cut out for guys' night and everything. He comes back and says, well, that's okay. Think maybe you could do it monthly?
Oh man, he's working it. Oh, he's working it.
And I'm like,
We can put you on a longer payment plan.
we could open up a line of credit. Just bring your house title. And I said, yeah, I don't know. I says, I'll give it consideration. That was all. And don't get me wrong, these are nice guys, but they definitely, the new meat is always going to be at a disadvantage. But I really loved that game. That was a great poker game. I mean,
Well, perhaps you and I, and maybe when Jeremy's down visiting, could get together and you could teach us this game.
yeah. Well, it's just one. They had like 3 games that were similar. And it's funny. It's really funny. They were talking about how they've had other people. He calls them recruits. I've recruited other people. You know,
Recruited.
Yeah.
There's a key word.
Yeah, and he made this statement about. But you know, I found that most of the time they don't like these games that we're playing. Well, I'm thinking, yeah, they don't like it because there's a complication to it, and there's a lot of nuance, which I like that.
Right.
You know, because that means you can strategize.
Right.
And that's, and they were teaching
There's
me.
nothing wrong with that.
They were teaching me honestly, but you can't cover everything. There's stuff that you just know that.
It's the finesse.
Yeah, and so I'm thinking, yeah, they don't come back because you clean their pockets out.
Yeah.
And that's what you did with me, and I appreciate the time, and nice to meet these
Well,
guys.
and really, that's cool. But you got the fellowship with some other guys,
Yeah,
some
yeah.
new guys, so that's cool.
But it was 4 hours. It was too much for me.
Oh yeah.
It was 5 to 9.
I mean, if I had a
With a meal.
sandwich bag of $10 worth of coins, I'd have been done in 15 minutes.
Like I said, when
Thanks,
I sat that down,
When do we eat?
and then the house, the guy that owns the place, he comes out with his wads of quarters, and stuff. He didn't have to have a bag, he had a big thing full, and then
Probably had a tray with it all organized.
yeah, and then Jerry, he reaches down and he brings in a backpack thing and pulls out. I'm like, and then when I can't think of the other guy's name. He comes in later, and he walks in with a big giant bag, and I'm like, and it's not just coins, it's cash and stuff. And,
yeah.
And it's their play fun, and I, like I said, it was okay, but yeah, it's just not me. It's just not me. And even Liz says the next day, she goes, you seem to be a little butthurt over that. I'm like, yeah, maybe I am a little bit. I don't like to just losing money.
Yeah.
I says, I'm just kind of a tightwad that way if I can help it.
We don't enjoy too much being sent to a meat grinder.
But yeah, I'll teach you the game. It's actually, like I said,
And it's called 1333.
yeah. The idea is to get as close to 13 as you can. That's a bluff. I mean, you could be holding 11 and bet high, and I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm at 11, and I'm going to need a couple more points. The thing that I was having a hard time was my schema on cards, like face cards, are always 10, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's not how that works in that game. face cards are a half current. Yeah, and I made mistakes because of my, like I said, my schema is a certain way, and you got to change your thinking.
And an ace is still 1?
1 and 11.
1 and...
I'll take some. Thank you so much.
I'm going to stop.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's still 1 and 11, and so that gives you, if you get an ace, and you get 2 cards, you hold 2 cards, and then you start putting cards down, and that's where people make a decision on what you're doing. And if you're going low, if you decide, okay, I want to bluff, and you have an 11 and I have an 11, you take a coin and put on the card and say no more cards, okay? And so that's like, oh, you look at that and you're like, oh, you could easily have 13. But if you go over 13, now you got to go high.
So then your objective is to get to 33.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And great. I mean, it's a cool game. I've never played it before, but when I think about all the mistakes I made with it, half of it was my thinking of what the cards are.
The math.
Yeah. And so
Well, I've never heard of a face card being a half.
Well, that's just part of this game,
Right.
And that's because.
So that would be hard for me to.
Well, you got to think about it. You got to cut the numbers down for the math.
Yeah.
So you take all the face cards and make them half a point. That makes it. That doesn't take it out of the game. I mean, if you have 3 face cards and you're holding 2, you're past.
I got you.
So
Sure,
if they
okay,
were
I
10,
get it.
so that's how that. And then, but the cool thing is the strategy on the betting and stuff like that, and the bluffing and stuff.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that part.
Yeah.
And I won a few hands bluffing. Matter of fact, I won 2 hands with an 11. And it's, and I mean, I don't know if they just let me have it or what, but, and these guys could count the cards.
Gambling love bombing.
Yeah,
Let him have that.
they've been doing this so
$1
long. They've been doing this so long, they look at your cards and they can pretty much tell you the number in your hand. And it's like, and I'm thinking, for me to get to that, it's going to take at least 3 more.
Yeah.
Of getting my butt kicked. And I'm like, is it worth $200 to be able to, play par with these guys? Maybe even under, over par. I mean,
Yeah.
So I just decided it's not my thing.
Well.
And that's okay. Taught me a lesson. Because the last time I played cards, I won big.
Yeah.
We were playing. It was at a Super Bowl party. We still lived over by Pine Bluff, and one of the supervisors had us all over. He made his own beer and everything. God, that was good. But we're all in there, and it's a big group, and we're all playing Texas Hold'em, and the game was just about to start, and man, the pot was building nicely. Everybody's all happy and going for it and everything. And I'm holding 2 queens, and 2 queens gets put on the river.
Oh.
And I'm like, wow, I got it. I knew I had it. And but what happened was, I didn't have it all. I had to split the pot. I still took $150. Yeah, that's how big the pot was.
The 4 of a kind, you still didn't get it?
No, I got it. Not all of it. No, that's not the way it went. I had it, okay, but they basically quit in the middle of it, and a couple of guys because the game's starting, right? And so I'm like, well, hey, what are we gonna do with this? And so I decided, okay, well, here, this is what I got. And guys are like, God, I've never seen 4 queens before. And this other guy that was still in it, we just decided to split the pot. I took 150 home. He took 150 home. That's how much the pot was.
Wow.
And I all attribute it to, I used to, when I would play poker time to time, I had this New England Patriots beer mug that had their old logo with the Patriot hiking the ball. You remember that?
Yeah.
Okay. I had that. I took it to a game one night. I was playing with some guys, And man, I won great. And I'm not a Patriots fan, trust me. You know, I'm a Vikings fan. Sorry, but
Put some cheese on my head.
yeah, he put cheese on his head. So I'd take that, and man, I always did good. And I wanted to take that the other night, and I couldn't find it. I don't know if I sold it or not, because I'm like, I ain't gonna play poker anymore, you know. Anyhow, that's my thing.
It's gone.
It's gone. I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I learned a good lesson there, and appreciate the boys showing me. Sucker.
Yeah, pigeon.
What's that L on your forehead?
Those are
I mean, just think about it. Big L on my forehead, little baggie full of coins.
a little one of those half sandwich bags.
Yeah. No.
Here's my nickels and dimes.
Yeah, that's what it was. Quarters, nickels, and dimes. I could have put it in a quarter bag. I set it down and I'm like, all right, well, I'm ready to play because, you know, $10, that should take me through the night. No, I had to.
Playing Penny Annie, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Not in that one.
No.
When we first started, and they taught me the game before the other guy came, and you know, and I had them running through a few times, and I'm like, man, I'm liking this game because it had the potential's great. I know why they like it, you know. But these guys have been doing it so much. Literally, they don't have to look at your hand. They just look what you got. And they're like, oh, I know what you're doing. It was just that easy for them. And like I said, for me to even
You have to brush up on your bluff skills.
yeah, for me even to, I don't even know if three more nights would have gotten me par. But at least I could count the cards better. So, yeah.
Go to the next one and have your own fresh deck. Use this deck.
They definitely could use a new deck. I've got a few at home. But anyhow, it was a good time. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy losing the money. Nobody likes that. But you know, it's just not me.
Yeah.
I don't know what's wrong with me. I think that Joseph Newton comes out in us. We're kind of loners.
And and that's a funny thing. When we're visiting or meeting people, we'll talk. We'll have conversations. No problem.
Social blood or butterflies.
We'll do that. But man, you want to get into some kind of scenario that you were just in. It's like,
well, here's a perfect example. I went to church yesterday.
oh, they were having a buffet?
Yep, they were having
Okay.
they were having not buffet, it's potluck.
Potluck. That's my
and
favorite running joke about you.
It's so funny. I walk in and I went with Liz early because she goes to the Sunday school class. So I went, okay, I'll just go with you and sit in the Sunday school class. And they were studying Esther. And, to me, the history is interesting.
Yeah.
So, I'm sitting there and, the lady that's teaching
So
us,
funny that you said that because Retta just mentioned yesterday or Saturday that she had just finished the book of Esther. Anyway, go ahead.
well, anyhow, there's only two guys there, myself and then Jimmy, another guy named Jimmy, I can't think of his last name right now. So he's, we're there, but it's basically women that are there, and I mean it was an interesting study because it was history, and the base subject was about racism, okay, and so the teacher, she's kind of running through the book and everything, and reading things and stuff like that. I'm like, God, this sounds familiar. A guy named Hannah. Anyhow, the whole scenario is that the king had given his number 2 guy in his staff his ring, his signet ring, to do what he wanted to. Well, this guy hated Jews, and and I'm like, a long time ago, I'm like, it sounds familiar, but I can't recall everything. And so anyhow, the teacher, she's like, I don't know what his problem was with, why he hated the Jews so much. He even called them, basically classified them, as, non-people or whatever. And his whole goal was to annihilate all the Jews in the country. And of course, a lot of people are like, what? You must be crazy and all this stuff. But he had a reason, and I'm like, so I got to looking while she's talking. Yeah, because King Saul, tried to annihilate all his people back in the day. And so this was, and I told her, I said, look, I did a little homework. I'm sorry. Oh, that's fine. I said, you asked, you didn't know why. I said, here's the reason. It's payback. And stuff like that. Well, now everybody's enamored at me. You start talking, enough to get yourself in trouble.
And then the next for the food.
And that's the whole thing. It's a whole running bet. Everybody knows that Joe's here because of the food. But I came to the Sunday school class because of Liz, and I wasn't going to drive her in, and so I'm here, and I just keep opening my mouth.
How dare you speak biblically?
Yeah, she made a statement about what pissed this guy off was one of the Jewish leaders was basically working for the government, and if you had this signet ring, you basically are you've got a lot of power, and it's expected that people will bow down to you when you walk by, right? Well, this guy wouldn't do it, and she says, she makes a statement, I don't understand, why he wouldn't do that, and I don't understand why, why do you have to bow down to this guy? He's not the king or anything like that. And so I made a statement about it. I said, well, it's like in the military. Oh, that piques everybody up. And I realized now I'm doing it. I go, whenever somebody salutes somebody, you're not saluting the man, you're saluting the rank.
That's right.
And the lady goes, I did not know that. I'm like, yeah, it's been that way forever.
And salute is essentially bowing.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
But you're bowing to the rank in the military. For this, it was something else, but that's an analogy for you.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So I get told, you need to come back. Oh, we need you and everything. And I'm like,
There you go. Just read the Bible.
I don't commit. I don't commit. But I know that's how I get myself in trouble. And here's how bad it went. Connie Castleberry? Okay, Connie comes up to me and says, Joe, I need you to do something for me. I'm like, okay, what is it? The sign outside, the church sign, the sign outside still has the old pastor's name on it. There's a new pastor. And I'm not sure how they replaced it in this time. And she says,
He's done.
probably, yeah.
Probably vinyl.
Yeah, but I went out there and I'm like looking at it, and you can tell the others have been scraped off the same way, But she wanted to know how it would have been done and everything. So I'm looking at it, and I'm like, what, this sign, the total thing needs to be replaced. Well, while I'm out there looking, they're having this little meeting that I didn't realize. And I come back in to get Liz, and they're in a meeting, so I end up sitting down, and they'd already had a big discussion about the sign. So I'm like, okay. So I'm waiting and everything, and for whatever the topic was and everything, and they're about to shut down the little meeting after church meeting. And I raised my hand to the pastor and says, I'd just like to make a suggestion. I think you need to change out the entire sign I says, it's been there since this building's been here. I says, it's served its purpose. Needs something more up to date and everything. And they had discussed the sign and put together a committee. And she goes, oh, well, do you want to be on the committee? You can be on the committee. Like, I don't even go to the church.
I'm only here for the food.
Yeah.
Let
And
me
so,
make this clear.
so I ended up getting myself on a committee by fiat. And that's because I just keep opening my mouth. But I really threw him for a loop. You'll love this. I told him, I says, if I may suggest another thing, you need to put a flagpole out there. And you could see the pastor, she's like, oh, sorry, because I'm sure she knows you're talking about $3,000 to $5,000 for a flagpole.
For a
real pole. You know,
pole.
You don't want somebody to just go out there and stick up something. And she's like, well, yeah, okay. And my logic's sound. I mean, they got a perfect place to put it. You could attach it to the sign infrastructure. You got electricity there to put a light on it. And, you could, I was telling Liz, I says, my logic is that you got a lot of people running around here thinking they're patriots. There's not a church I know of that has a flagpole in the front.
Right.
And I says, and I read an article years ago about how this guy was just adamant about putting a flagpole in front of their church, and nobody listened. They ended up, a guy donated like $160,000 to put a really nice flagpole, and it brought people in. And I told Liz, I says, the whole thing is that a lot of people around here, they'd love to see an American flag up there. And I says, because of how how the United Methodist Church is, the direction they're going, someday you could put a rainbow flag up there. Now that'd run off all the rednecks, but make it sure that it was inclusive. And I says, we're talking $3,000 to $5,000 to do it.
And imagine how much more food you could add to the table.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
You bet. So anyhow, that was my thing, and now I'm on a committee. God damn.
Look at you.
So, but they need to. I'm adamant about that. You need to change that sign and make it more modern. Stuff is peeling off of it and things like that. Get past that.
Yeah, and the word pastor is a function. It's not a title.
Yeah. Well, a lot of folks use it that way.
Yeah. No, well, I don't know of anybody that uses it.
Well, you got to go to more.
Title.
You got to go to different churches.
Oh, believe me, I've gone to many different ones. I'm like, it's all the same.
Well, I can think of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 5 different Christian nuances that they use that term, to identify the preacher.
Well, that's
That's
what I'm saying. It's used as a title.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They
Rather
use it
than
as a title.
the word is a function. It's not a title.
Yeah, well, I don't give a shit.
You hear John the Baptist say, I'm a prophet. I'm Prophet John. No, that was a function. He is a prophet, but it was a function.
Yeah, well,
But it ain't
I don't know
like
what,
it. It ain't nothing like gambling.
I'm not going to read the Funk and Wagnall to get that straight. I don't care. I mean, it's like I don't really care about any of this, because I just don't.
Come on, the food.
Well, and that's all I care about.
Yeah.
I love
Now
going.
you're on a committee.
I love. Now I'm paying for my love for potluck.
Now you got to pay for the potluck with your time.
So, but anyhow, the guy that is on the committee that that got volunteered before I walked in. He and his wife, they're like music majors. They did an rearranged "Draw Me Nearer," that song, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
What they they had the choir sing it, and I'm like, wow, that was really a decent arrangement. I had to tell them.
Yeah.
These guys are really good. They came from the Baptist church, and my dentist is now from the Baptist church is attending to be in the choir because the Baptists dropped the choir.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I'm like,
Is that a Southern Baptist conference? I don't know.
the First Baptist here?
Yeah, First
I think it's Southern
Is that part of the
Baptist.
Southern Baptist conference?
Did I ever tell you about when I was working over in Pine Bluff? Same supervisor that had the Super Bowl game. When he first got there, he told me. He told me. He says, "Yeah." He says, "When we first got here, he says, we started going to church in Edgewood, Maryland. We started going to church at a Baptist church there. It was great. The kids loved it. It was, very amenable. Everybody was fun and all this stuff." And he says, "We moved out here." And he said, he says, "You know where that Christian Missionary Baptist Church is? Right across from the Chinese restaurant." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I know that one." Well, he lived in he lived behind it. And they decided, okay, it's close. Well, we'll just hook up with these guys. He said, my first time there, he says, I walked out and I felt like my mom had scolded me. So get this. I told him, man, you need to go to the Methodist church. He's like, well, why is that? I says, they'll get you. They started going to the Methodist church.
You're kidding me. Food was probably better too.
Oh, probably.
Yeah, well.
I love telling, people, I'm like, yeah, I proselytized and converted a few to Methodism.
You don't want to, we'll start calling you disciple.
Yeah, I know. So, yeah, that was funny. He was EOD over in Iraq, and he had a video that was, it was shot from a drone. And what they did, if they were doing anything, this was in, I think it was in Baghdad. I don't think he was involved with Mosul and all that other stuff. But it was in Baghdad, and they got a call that, there was some explosives in this building, okay? And he said, we all showed up, and you can see it. I mean, you can see the drones videotaping this, looking for bad guys, but they're watching everybody here.
Right.
And so here's the building. These three Humvees pull up in front of the building, and you got three guys with, on the guns and everything. And then he said, myself and this other guy were looking inside the window into this like a big open space, and he said, there is a pile of not explosives, but it was like a pile of powder, I don't know, exactly. I don't remember what he said it was, but he said like a dump truck load full, just a big pile of this stuff. Probably something that they were using to make IEDs with, this stuff. And he said, we got to looking at it, and he said, these Corps of Engineer guys, combat engineers, they come pulling up, and they they get out their saw cutters to cut the chains and stuff like this and everything. We're like, whoa, you can't do that. You see what's in there? And they're like, oh, well, we're far enough away from it. No, don't think you should do that. And they're like, we're going to do it anyhow. And he said, they started cutting this thing, and he said this lieutenant that was with him, and she was with him, and then this other guy that was EOD. All of a sudden, this fire breaks out, and he said, we just took off running and jumped into this stairwell on the side of the building. And he said, he said, and then everything just, wow, right out the front of the building. It killed all three of the gunners.
Wow.
And a couple of other soldiers there. Killed the guys that were doing the cutting. And he had it all on video.
Wow.
I'm like, I says, is that you running? He says, that's me. And he says, we barely got out of there. And he said, we tried to tell him, that's open powder or whatever. I forgot what he said it was. And I'm like, holy, and you should have seen it. It just just like in the movies, just blew out the windows and just a firebomb,
Oh, wow.
fireball right out onto these vehicles.
That's horrible.
Oh, I know.
It's horrible.
Yeah. He was a good kid from Michigan via Florida. His family moved to Jacksonville. He's as bad as I am. He's a Jacksonville Jaguar fan. You ain't ever going to see the Super Bowl again. Just like my Vikings.
Had their shot. Well, I better get out of here. I gotta take that stupid dog to the.
That ain't a stupid dog. He's a
Bless
great
his
dog.
heart. I'm taking him tomorrow. Like I said, I'm taking him tomorrow. First thing, get that shot. I shouldn't have waited this long, but I did. I wanted to make sure he was complete meat.
Yeah.
Just a meat sack on legs.
All right. Well, let me call you this week and come down and brief you on how we're going to do things.
Okay.
Maybe, hopefully I'll have the cats a little bit in line. I don't know. They're so used to, I mean, you ought to see the process, man. Every morning I get up, I have to throw a little cat food down on the floor to keep the girls away from me so I can get stuff going. Then I fill up the cat kibble, and then I put a spoonful of soft food in 3 different bowls for the cats to figure it out. Then I give them some milk, and then I work on the big dogs, the outside dogs, and that's a half a can of soft food, 3 things of kibble, and blend it all. And if I had my gravy, I'd do it, but I'm not going to do it until I get it back. I put some of that in there. They really like that.
I bet they do.
Yeah, and so, but and then I get that going, and then I do the girls' food and put it in their bowls and everything. And then once I do that, I put everything away and get ready for the menagerie. And so, first one gets fed is Jada, then Brown, and then I open up the door with the outdoor dogs' food. Open it up, and I call them the glip-clops. Hey, glip-clops! And they're, and I've learned to open the door slowly to let the cats file in one at a time. Because I'd open up the door and let them all in at one time, and it's like they'd jump at the same time, scatter everything all the way. So one at a time, come on in, and then I feed the big dogs, and it's like, oh my goodness, what have I done?
You've got a process.
Yeah.
Well, I've got the same thing.
Yep.
I mean, I even have a jingle, to call the dogs. Well, I don't have to call them. They're waiting. Okay. Have you got it prepared yet? Yeah.
Oh, well, and Liz laughs at this, but trying to go out of the house and into the house, it's the cats, man. They don't want to come in and stay. They just want to come in and top off, as I call it.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh man, I'm always fighting and kicking them and get away and stuff like this. And sometimes they slip in. But I've gotten to where in the afternoon I open up the door, go on in, get topped off, and I'll throw you back out later. And they don't, in most cases, they're like, once they get what they want, then they're ready to go back outside.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Selfish. They're only thinking of themselves.
I know, yeah, because you don't do anything else. Just cause trouble around it.
Yeah.
And I don't let them in my hellhole at all. I mean, I'll let, Jada in there and maybe Peanut if she wants to come in every once in a while. But no cats, because people are allergic to cats, and I don't want to send them an envelope and they have anaphylactic shock. So I don't need that. I'm watching out for my customers with that. But they want. I've gotten to where they look in, but do I really want to go through the hassle of getting my ass kicked?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Well, let's get at this taken care of.
See you guys.
Oh, we're at Rick's.
Rick's, Greasy Rick's. Hope you enjoy this one too, brother. Okay, we're still waiting for that Benjamin.
Oh my God.
We're patient.
You're big,
guys.
I'm
Love
gonna
you.
hit the head real quick.